squad, trap 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 squad. Hey, clickbaity political. Yeah, thirst trap, trap squad, squirrel squad. Our mission is critical to speak the truth to the masses. Yeah. We here for the fight. We ain't started, but we here to finish it. Sick and tired of seeing the privilege. Take advantage of the weak and the innocent. So we let our voice be heard. Every single weeknight. Unapologetic. Yeah. Black people, despite this white supremacist system that we live through on a daily, we still throwing up those acorns cause we represent clickbaity. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad, throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad, yeah I see you, yeah I see you. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, thirst trap, trap squad, trap squad, trap squad, let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad. Throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad. Yeah, I see you, yeah, I see you. Trap squad, trap squad. Trap squad, thirst trap. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad.
Hello, everyone. Apparently, some of us are children. Some of us are responsible brown adults. I will be the responsible brown adult tonight. Hi, this is Dr. Jason Johnson. Welcome to Clickbaity Political Thirst Trap. I come to you tonight with, to my left on my screen, Mr. Mondale Robinson.
What's going on, y'all? Mondale Robinson, Black Male Voter Projects. It's Thursday.
Mondale, who has significantly improved his camera and is in a different room of his house. What is this room of your house, Mondale? I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, it's not my house. It's actually, I'm at a hotel. So I'm traveling. So
the show, the after party, and the hotel. So, Mr. Marcus, and that's not a double entendre, Mr. Farrell, where are you? You are in your home, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah, I'm in my crib, man.
Okay. With improved lighting. I see. What's the picture to your left? I actually don't know that picture.
Right here?
Yes.
That's Django.
Is it?
It is. It's Django with a Jordan at the bottom of him.
That's right.
Yeah, I was like, this is exceptionally black. Exceptionally
and
black.
Malcolm X and Jordan.
Okay, Malcolm X, Jordan, and Django. All right, very good. Wonderful combination. I'm getting myself set up here.
Dr. Johnson, it seemed like you were upset about your Skittles today. You didn't get your 4 Skittles.
Am I 4 Skittles? I
have no idea. I want 4 orange Skittles, or I'm not showing up on time.
Marcus, what about 3 Skittles? Can I give you 3 red ones?
Got to protect your chicken, y'all. I had to protect my chicken. So today's show, it sounds like we've got liquor, but we really don't. We have a lot to talk about today, and I'm going to switch it up from the start. And these guys don't know this, even though we had our usual production meeting, because there was some breaking news that I really want to hear what both Marcus and Mondale think about this. So the breaking news, if you guys are familiar with this, is out of the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, has canceled the Michigan legislative session this year for the foreseeable future in response to armed protests by white nationalists outside the state capitol in Lansing. Let me make this clear. White nationalist protests have resulted in a state government, a legitimately popularly elected state government, refusing or being afraid to do their job. I have thoughts, but I want to hear y'all's thoughts first. Marcus.
Man, don't hit me up with that. I just heard about that. It sounds like I'm registering this as you're actually telling me.
Yeah, it broke like an hour ago before the final. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Just thinking about that, like Marcus, it don't even matter if you'd heard about this yesterday. The reaction still for everybody should be the same as what you're doing right now. Yeah, everybody should feel and look like that. Like, wait, a whole government just shut down, like because of protests. Can you imagine that?
And I want to make this clear.
I gotta say,
to put this in context, right? Y'all remember, we're all old enough. I don't know if you guys were there. I was not there. How many of you guys went to the Million Man March? Either of you guys go?
No, I didn't go.
Okay, so Mondale, you did? I went to
the second one.
You went to the second one?
Yeah.
So on the Million Man March in 1995, Congress shut down, quiet as kept. A million black men out there, they were like, hey, we ain't trying, right? They shut down. But of course they went back to work. And the Million Man March was about reclaiming our own agency as African-American men and ways that we can protect ourselves, our community, and uplift. What you have happening around the country, directly encouraged by the President of the United States, is white nationalists using coronavirus as an opportunity to basically wage a slow-moving, armed revolution against democratically elected leaders in the United States of America. That's what this is. Let us not be in any shape, way, or form deluded about what just happened in Michigan. There's
a problem here.
Yes.
There's a problem here. There's laws that need to get passed to give statewide and local coronavirus relief funds that they have to sign off on.
They don't care.
I get that. I understand that they don't care, but this is a major problem. But here's the thing, you don't shut down. So I get the safety issue, but you don't shut down. That seems a little political instead of just, okay, you guys do what y'all have to do or do what you think you need to do outside here, but we got business to handle in here. And it's my job as an elected official to make sure that the business of the people happens no matter what y'all are yelling outside. So this is a problem for many reasons, because
right.
I'm pretty sure if we look at the Michigan docket and we say, and we see all the things that are on the docket, these are things during this time that actually are out to help people. So
yes.
folks in all of the cities around and towns around Michigan are hurting 1,000% more because of this right here. So I think it might be a bad move to shut it down. I don't know the protection measures. I don't know what's going on.
Let me, Marcus.
Yeah.
Mondale,
jump in.
Marcus, let me say something to you real quick, brother, and then you think about this. Jason, you too. Do you really? Here's what I believe, and call me sinister or whatever. I don't believe the government shut down simply because of armed white people. I think they knew. Let me tell you what happened. I think that government recognized that you were no longer going to be allowed, those armed white men were no longer going to be allowed to threaten Black legislators because they were being escorted by armed Black people. So what they saw was what happened in Detroit back in the 60s, about to happen all over again. Detroit was about to be burning. Because what's not going to happen is the people that were protecting the sister who's an elected official in Michigan said that it's not going to happen on their watch. That is a fight and a fire that Gretchen did not want to deal with.
I think, Mondale, I think that's a possibility, but I think probably the larger issue is that, one, there were threats against the governor. I mean, lots of threats against the life of the governor. And two, what you have is, let's be very clear about this. And that's why I began this discussion with talking about the Million Man March from 20 something years ago. If these were not white men making these threats, if these were Black, Hispanic, Native American, Asian American people, they'd have the National Guard out there arresting every single one of them, and there would be a gunfight.
Absolutely.
The reason this is happening is because you have more people who have faith in white supremacy than they do in democracy. Because as we've all talked about, white supremacy is not committed to capitalism. White supremacy is not committed to democracy. White supremacy is not committed to justice. White supremacy is committed to itself, to the upliftment and the control and the protection of white people in all phases of society. And so white supremacy demands that when violence is afoot, you basically have to acquiesce to it, because democracy is not more powerful than white supremacy. That's what I see. That is what I see when an entire state government can basically roll over in the face of armed terroristic threats.
Well, we saw Ronald Reagan do it in the 60s.
Marcus, you just thinking.
Go ahead, Marcus.
I think both of you are right here. Both of your sentiments are right. The problem is that fundamentally you have to be in leadership. Look, if you take a leadership role, right? Whether it's for a movement, whether you're an elected official, whether you're a pastor, right? You do your thing and make sure that your parishioners or the people you serve are serviced, because you put your life on the line by even putting your name on the ballot. I know that for a fact, being a former candidate in Arizona, right? Like if I said something that was negative, I got a couple of death threats just for being an African-American who decided to run in Arizona in general, right? But that's the risk that you take when you decide to be a public figure. yes, you have to take into account your safety, but there are safety measures here.
Right.
And to be honest with you,
you mean like the National Guard? You mean like the Capitol Police?
Come on.
Shut down the government is to protect white people.
You can shut down any state capital if you really wanted to. You can shut down any state capital and make it so only legislators went in there.
Yes, you can.
This might have been a political thing, and I hope it wasn't, because people need services that the state government have to provide.
Absolutely.
They don't care.
Absolutely.
I mean, Marcus, I want to say something here, and I'm gonna jump to you, Mondale. This is why this is important. This is why I think it's key when we have these discussions that their terminology is correct. This is a slow-moving rebellion. This is terrorism. Terrorism is the threat, if not the actual use of violence, to overthrow legitimate legislative action. That's what terrorism is. Protests are protests, right? Protests are gumming up the works of government by external means or affecting business by external means, right? But this is terrorism. These guys walk around with guns, and they walk around with guns to give the impression that they would be willing, if provoked, to engage in acts of violence in addition to death threats against the governor.
I don't even know if they need to be provoked. I don't know if they need to be provoked though. I think they just need to, like, they're just white men being white men. Like, seriously, nobody tell white men in America no. So like the idea that they can't go out their house, or they can't open up their bars or their barns or whatever they want to do there and have their shindigs is problematic to anything they've ever experienced in their life. So the American government, especially a woman or a person of color, telling these white men all over this country that you have to stay at home, flies in the face of what this country was founded for, which is basically white men's supremacy.
Hey, Jason,
my pushback, real quick, my pushback on that, and then we'll spin to Marcus. My pushback on that, Mondale, is this is not the majority of white men. This is not the majority of white people. Most white people in America don't agree with what these people are doing.
Here's what I was saying. Here's the problem, though. It ain't never the majority of anybody, really. When we're talking about making noise or protesting, it's never the majority.
Marcus.
My process is simple, Jason, Mondale. Armed black men who showed up to the Capitol is saying no to white men, point blank. Armed African Americans utilizing their constitutional right is automatically saying no to white people, right? You're not supposed to be safe if you're a black person in America. You're not supposed to be a threat if you're a black person in America. You're supposed to be only a perceived threat, but not a real threat. Because if you're a real threat, then that Constitution is working for you. And that's not what the Constitution was meant for. Colin Kaepernick taking a knee was not what the Constitution was meant for. Only we can fly flags and protest out of things that we feel wrong, like not being able to go to Zaxby's on a Tuesday afternoon and sit inside all goddamn day.
That is a crime.
Right. Like, that's a crime. That's against
I need Zaxby's.
So I mean, come on now. What we see what's going on right now. Yeah. The moment that black folks arm themselves, something happens.
Every time black people arm themselves, something happened. I'm telling you, Ronald Reagan, who Republicans love, when he was the governor of California, black people showed up, the Panthers showed up, and we had the Mumford Act, which was gun control.
So here's the question then. I'm going to pose this to both of you guys. So in these states that have had these protests, in Ohio, in Michigan, in California, do you think that if there were groups of African-American men and women exercising their constitutional rights to escort black legislators in throughout the country, Florida, Ohio, Michigan,
governments would shut down throughout the country?
Yes, absolutely.
And not because they care about protection. They would use the same language, the politics that the governor of Michigan used. Absolutely, that's the language they're going to use. But the real reason is you can't harm white men. Like, this is for protection of white men. Like, you kill one white man and it's a problem. You can kill as many black men as you want to, black women as you want to.
Have you ever seen the capital of Tallahassee, of Florida, in Tallahassee? It looks like
I've never been to Tallahassee.
It looks like a big white phallic symbol. That's what it looks like. It literally looks like a big white phallic symbol. So I see them coming to the capital of Florida thinking that this is all about us screwing America for our own rights, right? That's how it is. State capitals. And to be honest with you, you know what? Keep showing up, black people. Keep showing up. Use your rights. You know your constitutional rights and be legal about your being armed, because at this point, someone has to protect us, and those guys showing up to the Capitol aren't arguing for us.
Can I say something real quick, Jason? Yeah. Marcus, can I say something?
Mondale,
watch Marcus' eyes, Jason. The Second Amendment is not a black person's right.
Oh yeah. I mean,
look at Marcus. Look at it. Wasn't written. It was actually
written for us. It wasn't written for us, bro.
It was created to separate poor black people from poor white people, right? So, and
what
we
I
can
also
stop
want to
there.
point out, not to be the usual, water throwing cynic in this situation that I usually am, but I tacitly, or at one level, I agree with Marcus. You might as well use the rights when you can, because again, even when you are a legal gun owner in the United States, if you are an African-American, that doesn't protect you anyway, because Philando Castile was killed, or Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, who was in the house, who was a legal firearms owner, who used that gun to try and defend them when the police broke into their home.
That's right.
Broke into their home and shot a cop in the leg, still spent a month in jail.
Or Isidore Monroe, who was 105 years old in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, who was shot. He was half blind, half deaf, shot in his bed at 105 years old when cops kicked in his door. So yeah. Absolutely.
You can have a gun, it can be legal, it doesn't matter. But I think, look, this is absolutely, whether it's because armed black men were protecting a legislator that was going into office, whether it was because of fear of revolution, whether it's because of sympathies within the democratically elected government to these protests, whatever the reasons are, this is a rebellion. People need to start using that terminology. These are not protests. These are terrorist actions. They're slow-moving terrorist actions, and this is a rebellion. And we need to understand this, because heading into our second topic of the night, this is what we're going to see on Election Day. I keep telling people, Donald Trump, it's not just that he can't win unless he cheats. Donald Trump, if he loses the election, is not going to leave. He will not leave the White House. I keep telling people this.
You don't think he's leaving?
Some sort of dystopian fantasy. He's not going to leave. And you will see these same groups of people who have been empowered. And every single time something like this happens with a government shutting down, they won't be empowered to do more. So with this in mind, our brother Mondale this week moderated a fantastic panel on voter protection in the face of massive voter suppression, cheating, disinformation campaigns throughout the country. And so Mondale, first we want to find out, what was the panel like, who was involved, who you're working with, and what were the main takeaways? What are we supposed to learn now about how to protect our votes heading into the 2020 election?
So to be more specific, the conversation definitely was about, we definitely talked about voter protection and what it means to protect the vote, but the entire conversation was about expansive campaigns, meaning how you expand politics beyond those that are labeled super voters, people that vote in every election. So we invited we being Democracy for America, which is one of my jobs. I'm the political director over there. So I'm in charge of candidate endorsement, and I invited some of my Senate candidates, some of the most progressive candidates on the ballot this cycle, to come and have a conversation with me about what type of progressive and expansive election they're running across the country. So we had Royce West, who's running for Senate in Texas, a black man. We had Raphael Warnock, who's running for Senate in Georgia, black man. We had Jamie Harrison, who's running for Senate, South Carolina, black man. And we also had Betsy Sweet, white woman, running.
I also want to make it clear, the thumbs up was not in any way a diss to anybody else. It's just I've met Jamie. I mean, I know Pastor Warnock as well, but I've met Jamie, and we desperately want him to beat Lindsey Graham. We want all these people to win, but please take out Lindsey Graham. We just wanted to beat Lindsey Graham.
And I think Jamie's Jamie's running on a dynamic race, like all of these candidates are. So, but the basis of the conversation is me being a research nerd, data nerd, watched for so many years all of these white consultants say what it takes to win elections, and what I saw was they were losing elections, still talking about what it takes to win elections, even though they weren't winning elections, even though they were getting all the money, and kept getting promoted to higher and higher offices, even though they lost. So what I did was I took 5 years of my life to research on what it does or what it means to expand the electorate and to turn those people that are sporadic voters or low information, that's not my term, it's the term that people that play politics use, low information and sporadic voters into every election voters. And what I found out was, just like super voters, the same is true for sporadic voters. If you spend resources on this population, then they're more likely to vote. So we are working with our candidates to teach them how to spend resources, even though their consultants are telling them to target super voters. That incremental bump that you'll get from targeting super voters is not worth sacrificing so much of the American electorate and excluding them from election politics or electoral politics.
So question, Mondale, I want to follow up on this real quick and then I'll get to you, Marcus. What does that look like during coronavirus? What does spending, because prior to that, you know, Latasha Brown and other people we would know, that would mean knocking on doors and putting together events. But since we can't do that, what does expanding the electorate look like? What were some of the things that you were hearing as a moderator of the panel?
So because I moderated the panel, but I also created the criteria in which people were talking, because auditory campaigning is an idea that Black Male Voter Project, my organization, created. And so I heard what's factual and what I already know. Like, you don't, first of all, and even before corona or during corona, you shouldn't be focused on events anyway, because people that turn events, you don't know who they are, you don't know how many of them live in your district, you don't know how many of them are going to vote for you. It's not targeted, it's a waste of time. People like to do it because they see themselves in front of thousands of people or hundreds of people, but you can literally turn out more voters by having 4 or 5 conversations at the door as a candidate than you can at a rally. So I would always argue against the candidate that I'm working with going to rallies versus talking to voters that they know vote in their district. So our idea is, though, you need to talk to more voters, even those that don't vote on a regular basis. So talk to people who have not voted in 4 or 5 elections, and don't make your first conversation about your election. The first conversation, the first 2 or 3 conversations needs to be about that person and that person only. This is how we erode at the transactional characteristics that exist in traditional campaigns. And if we're not doing that, then we're simply playing into the way we already campaign.
So tonight, Marcus, there's going to be a town hall at 10 o'clock. We encourage everybody watching to watch the town hall. There'll be a town hall at 10 o'clock on MSNBC. Lawrence O'Donnell, great guy, that's going to feature both Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams, who you work for, talking about voter protection and get out the vote and what the Democratic Party's plans are to protect the vote heading into 2020. What would you like to see? Because, you know, Mondale just told us, hey, how they're trying to expand the electorate, how they're trying to communicate with people. What would you like to see Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams say tonight with a national audience when it comes to protecting the vote heading into the 2020 election? What would you want to see? What were the top 3 things you want to hear either one or both of them say tonight?
I want to hear Joe Biden actually say, Stacey Abrams, you got the floor. That's the first thing, right? And not say anything else. It's that simple, right? What I would like to see is a conversation around turning out, mobilizing not only Black voters, but young black male voters at some point, because the sisters vote at a high rate, but also emphasize the importance of African-American women voting. And the last thing is the urgency of the tactics that the Republican Party will use coming up here in November, and how they have to be counteracted. I did want to add one thing to what Mondale just said. This needs to be known, and I'll make it quick. When you are a consultant, the typical consultant class of politics keeps money within themselves. Therefore, when you knock on doors, right, this needs to be known. So grassroots campaigns, when you knock on doors, consultants are kind of against that. Classical white consultants are against knocking on doors. And the reason why is because
they don't get no money.
You take campaign money out of hands of Black people and brown people who are knocking on doors in communities, and you put that money into one person or 3 people's hands, right? So you can play golf with somebody, and you know that you have a $2 million budget. You could give $1.5 million of it to your friends instead of giving 1.5 of it basically to the community that is trying to mobilize. The political industry, the campaign industry, and I say that on purpose, is just like corporate America, right? Where we try to keep, they historically tried to keep the low, right? So your canvassers, your deputy field directors, your anybody in field, anybody who's not like a major name, they try to keep you low paid, underpaid.
Right.
And meanwhile, at the same time, they try to make sure that the campaign manager, the consultants get all of the budget. Now, when you donate to a campaign, America, when you donate to a campaign, you think that you're going to see some organic work that's going to make people win. But what you typically see is a bunch of commercials that all of the commercials in politics basically look alike. They have somebody standing on a porch saying, blah, 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 for this, that, and the other. Instead of taking that same amount of money, getting somebody from the community that has already had a rap video that knows the community, right? Make a commercial basically saying things about the community that make sense. So
Marcus,
here's the thing. So
hold on a second.
Mondale.
Go ahead. I was going to say, Marcus, I just want to add to what Marcus is saying about because let's be clear. When Marcus said give him 1.5 million to one of your friends, he's not talking about to one of your friends' companies so their companies can hire canvassers and bring them into people's community. He's talking about just giving 1.5 million so that person can run ads. So when people run ads, they don't just run the ads, they get paid off the ad buy. So the bigger the ad buy, the more money they make. So I just wanted to make that point. What were you about to say, Jason?
So here's the other thing in this, and I have several thoughts about this town hall tonight. Number one, and I'd like to hear what you guys think about this. I am amused. I'm thoroughly amused by tonight's town hall. And again, I encourage everybody to turn to MSNBC, watch it. Stacey Abrams, state senator and forever governor of Georgia, Stacey Abrams, and Joe Biden will be doing the town hall tonight. Because I'm old enough to remember, and gosh, I think that's a highly overused phrase, just like being thrown under the bus 10 years ago. But I'm old enough to remember 2 weeks ago, when all the pundits and all the haters were like, Stacey Abrams is so thirsty. I can't believe she's doing all these things. Oh, guess what? Guess what? Now Stacey Abrams is basically doing a low-key test run with Joe Biden to be doing this town hall. Now, look, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that Ms. Abrams is going to be the VP. None of us know if that's going to be the case one way or another. But I find this town hall itself to be a wonderful, hilarious repudiation of the conventional DC wisdom that her behavior was somehow inappropriate or thirsty or bad. And yet the result of it is, if you want something, go out and get it. And by the way, if you have something to sell to the American people, which is a real plan of action when it comes to voter protection, why the heck should you wait your turn for anybody else? I hope tonight feels like a dry run for a lot of Americans, because I think they should see what it's like to see Stacey Abrams and Joe Biden play off of each other. Marcus, what do you think?
Listen, Stacey is one of the most composed, intelligent politicians in America, point blank. And I mean, I told you so. I wrote an article on it. I'm not going to even keep going about it. I
still think he's going to pick Senator Harris, but
he's not going to pick Harris. He's not going to pick Harris. He's not going to pick Harris.
I mean, hold on, pause. No, this is important. First off, by Joe Biden dropping those black policies a couple of weeks ago, by Joe Biden actually making comments on Ahmaud Arbery in the South, I do still think that campaign is trying to cover and buffer on getting Klobuchar or some white woman as the vice presidential pick, even by elevating Stacey right now, right?
Good theory voice. Listen, let me. Here's what I'm going to say to you. I don't care about who he pick as a vice president. Here's what I do know. I know Joe Biden is going to cause a lot of progressives to lose their credentials. So I'm happy about this, and I'm just sitting back watching who's going to go down swinging and lose their progressive credentials, bona fides, so to say, because of Joe Biden. Like, people are sacrificing everything about themselves and their career they built for this man.
So I want to spin from this. This is our third topic of the night. We talked about this in our pre-production meeting. Joe Biden, in addition to, and I don't know, I'm saying this sincerely, I have no idea if Senator Abrams would be considered a progressive or I don't know. It depends on who you ask. But State Rep Abrams. But what I do think is this: it's been very interesting that as Joe Biden has sort of put together his policy teams, that he's taken some of the most prominent people called surrogates from the Biden, from the Sanders campaign, Representative Jay Powell, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and put them in his policy groups. Now, I, for one, simply think that's good politics, right? You want to bring people in, everybody wants to be ambitious, everybody wants to do what they want to do. I'm sure there are other people who think that this is a long, slippery road to a terrible life, as in the purgatory of centrism. What say you, Mondale, about Joe Biden's policy teams bringing in prominent surrogates from the Sanders campaign? And then we'll go to Mark. What say you, Mondale? Isn't
Joe Biden said it best. Joe Biden said it best when he did it. When he did it, Joe Biden said it best. We're gonna have a unified party. Like, and to him, to his team, it's genius. To him and his team, it's genius.
Yes.
What? Who can be against Pramila Jayapal, Congresswoman Jayapal? Who can be against AOC? Right? These are lightning rods. These are fireballs. These are brands in the progressive politics. Right? But for me, as a progressive, I have never wanted to play on the inside, so much so as I'm willing to sacrifice what I believe in. I hope going over to Joe Biden as co-chairs for whatever panels or policy teams they're joining, I hope these sisters don't give up and become old progressives and new.
I like it inside. There's air conditioning. Marcus,
the air conditioner kill you, man. Legionnaires, man, legionnaires.
Marcus, what say you? I again, and you guys know this. I'm not a Democrat, so I don't play with these sorts of identities one way or another. But I do think, from a strategic standpoint, I think it's a good idea. I think what's the alternative? The alternative is what? Joe Biden doesn't invite prominent supporters from the Sanders campaign and has them on the outside. I don't think that's a way to unify the party. Do you agree or disagree with Mr. Robinson's cynical take on what might just be a sincere gesture of expanding the range of the party?
I do both, and honestly, let's just keep it 1,000, right? Like, you need to have a seat at the table. A lot of my progressive friends are just like going ham just because they decided to go ahead.
Marcus, we can't hear you.
Marcus, can you speak up? Your volume's down.
AOC went, like, you needed to do both, right? AOC decided that, she wanted to have a seat at the table, and that's the way it is. But she has a seat at the table more so, maybe not even in mind of the 2020 election, but for maybe 2028, right? You need to have certain things on your back that you push in general. So, I mean, it's a smart decision politically for everybody involved. And to be honest with you, the masses, I mean, come on, man. If you look at AOC's email list, the thing that gets her money, that thing is comparable to Bernie's list, right? If you look at, she makes a lot of money off of emails. And it ain't comparative with Bernie, but it's definitely amazing. It's amazing. It's definitely top 5. It's amazing. Person. Yeah, so we talk top 5 rappers, but when you talk about top 5 email lists, that's a whole different scheme, right?
I mean that would be like Obama, Trump, Bernie. Yes.
AOC already was making decisions in like to modify her politics to make sure that she could get more things done. And if that's a good or a bad thing, if it's a good or a bad thing, we don't know yet, right? So as far as I'm concerned, politics, baby. Hold on one second. Can I bring our audience here real quick?
Because I'm the cynic. Listen, I am amused at the disappointment of idealists. Let me
bring our audience in real quick. So Maria said, notice he didn't invite Cornel West and others, right? Notice he didn't invite those people in. And then someone said, Marcus must have given up alcohol for the rest of quarantine. He's been super calm for the past few weeks. Marcus, salute.
Salute. This is water. Ironically, I had alcohol for the first time earlier this week. It was,
Wait, no, the first time ever?
Now check this out. There's a reason.
First time in months.
And that person is right. There's a reason why I don't want to get lit with y'all anymore, because y'all be ganging up on me. So I'm keep my mind right.
More Skittles.
I gotta keep my mind right, to make sure that I can handle the ether that both of you brothers bring.
Give Marcus his Skittles.
Damn, what is that, cello or a violin? You have no idea what it is.
That is my sad violin.
No one plays the cello with your violin. No one plays cello.
Cello is like this. Cello's like this, like you're chopping a kebab.
One's a stand-up instrument.
So here's the thing, and I'm amused by this.
I wanted to go back. Hold on one second, Jason. I hear you. Before we lose it, Marcus said some important stuff about being you get elected to play politics. Politics requires you to compromise. So I hear what you're saying about AOC realizing that you just can't be an outsider inside of Congress halls, or you'll be lonely. And I don't know if you're going to be effective for your district. I definitely hear that, Marcus. And it's all brilliant and it makes sense. Here's what I'm saying, though. So often, that system that we call establishment sucks in people and we lose them. Howard, I'm going to say this, and this may get me in trouble. Howard Dean used to be a progressive, right? Where is he now?
Is he not progressive anymore? I wouldn't know. How are you defining progressive? And to be fair, is it that Howard Dean was a progressive in 2004 and the definition of progressive has changed? Or do you think that his policies have changed? Because
okay, we can say, listen, we can say the definition of progressive have changed, but the idea that you need to light up the entire country, you need to organize all 50 states, whether you win the entire state or not, just for the sake of more people participating in politics, is progressive still in 2020, because even the most progressive candidates aren't doing it. So politics haven't caught up to where Howard Dean's 50 state strategy is still, which is why I think DFA is still one of the most important political PACs in this country, right? We still organize people from dog catcher all the way up to presidential candidates, seriously. And so and then also he was also calling for universal health care, right? So I don't know if the world is where Howard Dean was in 2004. Are there more people saying it? Absolutely. But what I will say, who he is now is not we can't call that progressive.
Marcus.
Everybody's a neoliberal until we get into the foxhole.
Hey.
And then they turn into the progressive. It is
I have no idea who's in the foxhole. I will go into the foxhole whenever it's convenient for me.
Black people are in the foxhole.
The rest of you guys fight over these names and definitions to the degree that it's enjoyable to you. I will say this, and again, probably because I don't view these sort of things the same sort of way. All I care about, and all that matters to me, and this leads to our next sort of topic, all I care about is removing the president from office. I do not care.
That's all you care about?
That's all I care about right now. That is
no DA races are important to you? No mayoral?
No. I care about the functioning of our democracy at all levels. Obviously, I care about the Senate. Obviously, I care about the House. Obviously, I care about all those positions. But ultimately, for me, I need to see this president go. And part of that reason, and we've sort of done the show in a different kind of order today, has to do with my take. We always do a coronavirus story of the day or the week. We usually start with it, but we're jumping into it now. I was looking at some of the most recent data and some of the most recent discussions about coronavirus. And it's not just that the numbers go up. We're now over 82,000 and now talking, 160,000 people by August. It's not just the grotesque death toll. But I want to suggest everybody out there, there's a great article that you can read by Mara Gay, who is on the editorial board, she's a colleague of mine, she's on the editorial board of the New York Times. She wrote a fantastic article today that just came out today called, coronavirus is hurting a generation of young people, and here's how. Mara is 34. She is a runner, and she caught coronavirus and has survived it. But it is a searing story about the challenges of getting healthcare, getting cared for when you do have coronavirus. If you're alone and single, there's no one taking care of you when you're suffering through coronavirus. And now a woman who is a runner is doing breathing exercises every morning in the hopes of bringing her lung capacity back so she can go back to the lifestyle that she had before. So I think it's a great article. I strongly encourage, go to the New York Times website, look up Mara Gay, but that is my coronavirus story of the day. And it hit me because I had just been writing about that on Twitter and at Dr. Jason Johnson last week, that I have old coworkers. There are people who it ain't the flu. When you're done with coronavirus, it ain't done with you. And that's the thing that people need to remember. You get over the flu and you hop up that first morning after me. You guys had the flu. That first morning when you wake up and you don't feel sick, you're like, yo, you're ready to run a marathon. Your appetite comes back. You're ready to go. That ain't how coronavirus is for a lot of people. You get past the disease and then there could be months, weeks, years, and possibly the lifetimes of effects. And I just think this is a great article for people to share. Marcus, what's your coronavirus story?
Well, first, we haven't said the name Breonna Taylor yet in this conversation.
Yeah, we did.
Say that.
I talked about Breonna Taylor because I talked about gun rights and how her boyfriend was thrown in jail for protecting them.
Man, you know, this is a little fun, but it's a little sad. You cannot have sex during the coronavirus. Yeah, that's right. Coronavirus is spread through, and coronavirus is spread through your eyes. Like you can catch the coronavirus through all different methods, right? And here's the thing. It's going to be very hard for Americans to, it's already very hard for Americans to stop going to bars. It's already really hard for Americans to stop getting haircuts, going to the nail salon, especially Black Americans. But if you're stuck inside the house with one person, and that person is your significant other, you can spread the coronavirus by having sex. So at this point, you know, my thought, and you can look up the articles, coronavirus and sex, it'll pop all up, right? But at this point, the lockdown.
You might end up on some websites you don't intend to, but keep going.
Yeah. Corona does Dallas, right? But at this point, what I want to just point out is that the lies and the facade that the White House is actually perpetrating right now across the board about every single thing to do with science, right? Like we are doing more research than AIDS in the White House right now as normal human beings when it comes down to the coronavirus. If you got a cough, you probably, and you said, does this cough make me have coronavirus? You've done more research than anybody in the White House, right? Like if you Google, I have a leg ache, you've done more research than anybody around Donald Trump at that point. So the lack of science, the lack of believing science, it in itself is a pandemic, right? So you add bad politics and talking points, and then we have it. We have a place where scientists aren't believed, and right now, as African American people, I suggest don't listen to the White House. Listen to the first 3 or 4 searches on Google and find reputable evidence to back that stuff up.
Mondale, what's your coronavirus story of the day?
It's definitely not sex. So my story is, I'm laughing, but Marcus, you caught me off guard with that one, brother. I mean, because I read the article, I didn't think any of us was going to bring that up, especially I like it. That was wonderful, Marcus. Great job.
That's what I'm here for.
But my story is not funny at all. My story was what was happening on Capitol Hill today, the testimony of Dr. Bright, who once was a doctor over at the pandemic agency, or the agency that tests for the next pandemic or try and test to prevent us from having a pandemic. And his testimony, the part that scared me was when he said with a straight face that Donald Trump appointee, one of the secretaries, said, "Oh yeah, we're not gonna." They had a call scheduled with the Ming from China, and they were supposed to ask for the virus back in January, the beginning of January, so we could start running tests to see what type of what type of virus it was. He's like, "Oh yeah," the guy got on the phone, was like, "Oh, we're not gonna do that. We don't need to worry about that." And like with that type of energy, and when he said this, I immediately started to think about the difference between New Zealand, South Africa,
right,
Senegal, right, Cote d'Ivoire, all of these countries who had a few cases, and moved into action immediately, versus us with 82,000 people dead now because of, oh, we don't need that virus, don't worry about it. Oh, this ain't real, it's gonna magically disappear. I think he did it this way. It's gonna magically disappear. Or the fact that Donald Trump thought it was okay to say that 50,000 people die from the flu. It's just like that.
I will tell you, earlier this morning, I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine. We were catching up. And, as you guys heard me say a couple weeks ago on one of my final thoughts, you should catch up with people. Make sure you're catching up with people during Corona. Make sure you're reaching out. Make sure you're FaceTiming with people. You can't just have voices. You need to have human contact. And this is probably a part 2 of my Corona story. So you guys all remember the "What's Up" commercials, right? What's up? What's up?
What's that?
And the guy.
No, you can't stop it until Marcus say what's that. Okay. Now remember.
So the guy who came up with that, his name is Charles Payne III, I think. And I used to know his dad because his father was a professor in the journalism department at Chapel Hill when I was there working on my doctorate. And if you don't know, he's worth looking up. Charles Payne is like a famous reporter. I think it was like Coretta Scott King stayed with him and his wife the night after MLK was killed. I mean, he's an amazing guy. So anyway, so his son came up with that ad. But I say this because one of the interesting things that I've also seen in coronavirus is they've done a remix of the original What's Up commercial. And it's encouraging men to check in with their buds. You know, all these commercials on Facebook, communicating, families having fun times or whatever it is. But men who oftentimes do not maintain as many intimate relationships as women, especially.
I push back on that wholeheartedly.
As many. I'm not saying the depth of intimacy. I'm saying as many, right?
Okay.
Mondale, you're a caring human being, brother. Like,
man, I love my brothers.
You're not all men, bro.
Yeah, like most men, you know, if you look at, say, sociological studies and you ask a 35-year-old woman, you know, how many close friends do you have? Meaning persons that you talk to more than once a week in your professional life. Women will say 5 to 6. Many men will say 2, maybe 3 max. And so during a time of coronavirus, there's a lot of isolation, a lot of depression, a lot of people out of work, a lot of diagnosed mental and emotional illnesses. So I'm very excited. I was very happy to see that commercial where they just do a voiceover and they do the what's up and they're like, bro, how you doing? Are you okay? How you handling coronavirus? So I'm glad to see that a beer, you know, a beer company is reaching out for sort of the mental health aspect of this. And it's not lost on me that the What's Up commercial is a bunch of brothers. It's 3 black
and Gabrielle Union's in that commercial as well.
No. That's the other one.
There's a What's Up one with Gabrielle Union, and I'm like,
there's a What's Up one with Gabrielle Union, Chris Bosh, D Wade, and some other ones. But there's another one where it's literally the commercial from 15 years ago that they just changed the voiceover. So I think that's key. And also, I'll ask you guys this, and this is also a corona political question, because this is what I was thinking of initially. Have any of you guys thought, with what Mondale just said about these different countries, have any of you guys thought of leaving the country? This is real talk.
Hell yeah.
Going to New Zealand.
Pause. I think about going back to Florida every day.
Live under DeSantis? You really want to live under DeSantis? I mean, he's not much better than Tim, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
I mean, this is something that we need to talk about also, is that European countries are already looking at America right now like, y'all travel over here no more. Like, your guy is silly and we're
European. You ain't even got to go that far. Look, I sent a message. I was about to show y'all the message. You ain't got to go that far. Listen, I'm talking about 90 miles. Well, Canada ain't that far if you're in New York. I'm talking about, I sent a message to my homeboy in Cuba like, yo, is it good for Americans to come out? He's like, nah, just stay home. Y'all got Trump still. Literally, he told me they're not letting, he's like, yo, Americans can't come into Cuba right now. And I'm crushed. Hey, I called and checked him. He's like, nah. He's like, not right now, bro. Just stay at home. So it's bad.
I mean, Jason, as much as this was supposed to be hot boy summer for me,
what?
I know.
What? Listen, we had a conversation earlier today. Look, Marcus called me today.
Hold on.
No, we go. I know we don't talk about.
He's about to be
we got to hear this.
Okay, you're right.
Don't make me mute you, man. We got to hear this. What's the story, Mondale? What's Marcus trying to not let us hear?
No, you know what? Marcus just saved my life. Actually, I'm not even gonna. We just had all I'm saying is today the conversation just didn't feel right because I was at home. I was trying to meditate. I was in my meditative moment. The lights was off. It was dark. And I'm talking to Marcus. And then his voice gets real soft. He's like, okay, man, bye-bye. I'm like, bruh, that ain't how you say bye to me, bro. Like, what's wrong with you?
It was like,
however, Marcus made an interesting point. Marcus made an interesting point. He's like, bro, you need to check what you just said because it sounds toxic. And he was absolutely right. Like, he was absolutely right. Because that type of thinking, that type of thinking is ridiculous.
Like, and
yeah. So salute and
it was me. And it was me. I didn't.
And don't ever say bye bye to me again, Marcus.
Right.
Oh no,
another man's plate. You can make another man's plate. Leslie, we are beyond that toxicity. All right, you can make another man's plate too.
Absolutely. You can make my plate.
I was joking about this with my friend this morning. You know, a lot of universities are still deciding if they're going to have full classes or hybrid classes or anything else like that this fall. And I was like, look, if we're still on virtual classes only, I'll take a look at South Korea. I'll find me an Airbnb in New Zealand. I mean, I'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to teach an evening class. Why not? I mean, if we have to do this stuff virtually, because this place is dysfunctional right now. Yeah, and we're facing, and I think it was the article that we're all talking about, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. We're facing a point of no return. Now, I don't know when that is, just like with climate change. We don't actually know when the point of no return is. But we will reach a point where the rot of this administration and the dangers to our infrastructure by failing to address coronavirus will turn it into something that will make long-term repairs almost impossible. It'll make it a point where we can't fix this in 3 months like the Germans have, like the South Africans have, like the French have, like the Senegalese have. And when that happens, then we're all kind of screwed. Marcus.
Yeah, in our pre-recording today, we talked about how it might be 10 to 15 years before we really get over this right now. And that's a scary thing, but we're not having that conversation. Marcus, capitalism zone. All I'm gonna say is what this has shown me more than anything else. We talk about moving out of the country and we talk about the repercussions of going forward. Do you really need to show up to the office? Do you really have to, America, do you really have to show up to the office? Do you really have to get harassed? Do you really have to get check in and check out? What this coronavirus has shown us is that essential workers and non-essential workers don't necessarily have to show up. And also, it's going to go on for a long time. So be prepared. Invest in some technology at some point that's going to go forward and make you a little bit of money. And also make sure that you get ready for the long haul. Your kids probably shouldn't be going back to school in September, no matter where you are. So you know what you need to invest in learning a homeschool teacher or internet.
Unless you're in Senegal.
Yeah, right. Or unless you're in places that have it. We like what it means and what it looks like to be at home for the next year and a half. Because if you want to keep your family safe, you're going to have to be home for at least the next year and a half, no matter what.
Right.
I mean, we're talking 5 or 10 years before there's a vaccine, before we really got to. They told us what, Ebola was 5 years and that was quick before we really got a vaccine for it. So people pretending that like, oh yeah, the fall's coming, we'll be good. No, the fall's coming and so is Corona.
No.
The Corona's coming back and the way it mutates, Jason, you talked about this a couple of shows ago, the mutations and the danger of the mutation of this disease or this virus, I'm sorry, it's not something to be taken lightly. We don't have a vaccine for the first iteration of it, let alone how it's gonna mutate by the fall.
I saw a great article today, and I don't remember where. I think it might have been the Atlantic, but here I am feeling like I'm giving everybody a syllabus. There's a great article today that was talking exactly what you guys are talking about as far as how long we're going to be out and how this is going to affect education. We already have whole generations of kids who are going to be left behind. They're not going to be able to catch up. Their parents are not teachers. They don't have the skill set. They don't have the environment. They don't have the internet connections, the schools, the resources, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not unrealistic that a lot of people won't be able to return to classroom until 2021. And I mean fall of 2021. And maybe people will finally, after 35 years, think about, well, maybe the only way that we can have social distancing is actually have smaller class sizes. Imagine that. That you can't, if it becomes a policy and a healthcare issue, that you can't force elementary school teachers to have to teach 25 kids anymore.
Absolutely.
That you have to have classes that are no bigger than 10 because that's the only way you can social distance. But one other thing, I want to pitch this to you guys, and I want to hear what we would think about this. This article that I saw in the Atlantic was saying, look, there's all this school stuff you can teach, but while you're home with your kids, why don't you teach them a real skill? And the photo was this father teaching his daughter how to change a tire. She was 9. And it was like, teach your kids plumbing, teach your kids some gardening. If you don't know, teach yourself while you teach your child. If you've got this much at-home time with your children, Marcus, and then Mondale, what is a skill that you would, if you were a parent, like I'm home, I'm quarantined, what's a skill you would want to teach your 9 or 10-year-old that you know they're not going to learn in school, but if you're home all the time, why not teach them? Marcus.
Rotational farming, basic math, more so slaughtering. If you're a meat person, hunting and slaughtering an animal. If you are addicted to meat, also what it means and how to be a vegan or a vegetarian, because I was that at points in my life. The basics about like maintaining yourself off of land. I know we don't talk about this a lot, but
it's 100 skills.
Yeah. Killer Mike made a point in that same thing that we talked about last weekend, but Killer Mike did make a good point. And he was like, how many of you guys know how to take care of yourself? Like, if you live in America right now, where's your primary water source coming from? And where's your natural water source? Where's the closest clean water reservoir that you come from? How do you get there?
All right.
How do you walk? So I mean,
that's a lot of tactics.
Yeah, I mean, but on the same token, like if Jason asked me if it was what are we doing here? So
yeah, if you're home with your kid, and we got a couple minutes left, we'll run up our clothes. But Mondale, like, what would you're home? You've got your son or your daughter, your 10-year-old. You're home. You're quarantined. What's something you want to teach them that you know they're not learning in school? So if you're home with them, why not teach them?
So real quick, I'm gonna address that. Marcus, how can people find you?
Marcus for America on Twitter and Instagram, and also please watch, share this page on all of your social media.
Dr. Johnson, where can people find you?
At Dr. Jason Johnson. You can follow me as I regularly tweet about politics and pop culture and sports that we're not going to have this fall. So
as a person.
I just want to give a shout out to I want to give a shout out to Tamara, because she said, I teach my kids hydroponics.
There you go.
I think that's Tamara, but let's roll with that.
Tamara, yeah.
Mondale, you have our closing shot. You're closing out the show.
Well, so here's what I would say. As a person who made a conscious decision not to have kids, I had a vasectomy when I was 23. So I stay away from offering parenting advice to people who didn't make that decision. What I will say, though, is it's also important that we remember that some parents at home with their kids are barely getting by because they don't know how to do any skills themselves. And it's not because of anything of them being lazy. It's because of the designs of this system. So I just wanted to make sure we pointed to that, and people didn't think that we were being very ethnocentric as it pertains to people's resources and also skill level and what they're able to teach or not teach their kids. I was raised by father with a 3rd grade education and also the son of a sharecropper. So I just wanted to represent that side of the space. My closing thought is Corona is killing Black people. Not the virus, but the cop Corona. In New York, 81% of the people arrested for Corona summons or not social distancing properly are Black and brown people. So the new stop and frisk in New York with this wonderful governor and mayor that people keep bragging about are still stopping and frisking Black people. Even in the time of Corona, they're over-policing us. So we're dying from this disease overwhelmingly, and now we're still being over-policed. I'm telling you, this country is dead set on keeping the white majority by any means necessary. We should be afraid of it and aware of it, and the way that you correct it is by voting. Believe that or not, voting corrects all of this. And I'm not talking about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I'm talking about finding out who your mayor is, find out who your DA is. If they're doing right by you, keep them there. If not, get 12 of your friends, and I bet y'all probably are enough to unelect them. So that's my thought. Voting locally is the best thing you could do for your community and also show your Black people that you love them. Vote locally, vote often. Mondale Robinson, you can find me on all social media platforms at I am Mondale Robinson. Have a good evening, but not before you think about it. Peace.
Thanks, guys. We're out.
Trap squad, 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 trap squad. Hey, Clickbaity political. Yeah, thirst trap, trap squad, squirrel squad. Our mission is critical to speak the truth to the masses. Yeah. We here for the fight. We ain't started, but we here to finish it. Sick and tired of seeing the privilege. Take advantage of the weak and the innocent. So we let a voice be heard. Every single weeknight. Unapologetic. Yeah. Black people, despite this white supremacist system that we live through on a daily, we still throwing up those acorns cause we represent clickbaity. Yeah. Trap squad, trap squad, trap squad. Let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad. Throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad. Yeah, I see you, yeah, I see you. Trap squad, trap squad. Trap squad, ThirstTrap. Trap squad, trap squad. Trap squad. Let me hear ya. Trap squad, trap squad. Throw those squirrels up if you with it. Trap squad, trap squad. Yeah, I see you, yeah, I see you. Trap squad.